Hello, Holy Apostles. Father Jim Barron here, joined by Carmen Lewis, and welcome to this Fireside. Today's Fireside, we're going to focus on one of the great apostolic efforts going on at our parish called St. Vincent de Paul Society. This is a real staple in the life of the church, especially here in America. Many parishioners, no matter where you've come from, have heard of the St. Vincent de Paul Society. It originally began in France with, of course, St. Vincent de Paul, but it's branched out to do great service, acts of charity, practical and prayerful outreach to various neighbors in need and parishes across the world, really, but especially, again, as I said, here in our own country. And we are blessed to have a St. Vincent de Paul Society conference here at our parish. And it is fearlessly led by Carmen. She's the interim president for our conference. And we have a number of other parishioners who are also involved: Maureen Morris, Denise Brown, Deborah Washington, and Lily Wright. And we've got a number of other folks who are also involved in one way, shape, or form, most often through support. But a little bit about Carmen, and I'm going to ask her some questions today to help us to understand the St. Vincent de Paul Society and what they do. But she is coming to us from Texas with her husband, Daniel. And before COVID, she was a teacher. But with COVID, she's been at home full-time with her son. And with that, God's providence has been able to help serve in this capacity for our St. Vincent de Paul Society here at Holy Apostles. So, Carmen, welcome.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Father.
That was a brief snippet about you. Anything else that you want to tell us about yourself?
I think that covers it. Those are the basics.
All right, great. So, what is the St. Vincent de Paul Society?
Well, funny you should ask. The St. Vincent de Paul Society is a Catholic lay organization, like you said, founded in France in the 1800s by a young college student, actually, who was appalled by the conditions in Paris at the time and wanted to do more for those in need. And a few years after he began it in Paris, it came over to the U.S. and now has thousands of conferences, which is the basic unit of the society, all over the country. The society here in the U.S. is a nonprofit organization, so 501c3. All the conferences are as well. So the conference, the basic unit of the society, is a network of friends inspired by gospel values to grow in holiness and to build a more just world through personal relationships with and in service to those in need. So, and really, the key of what we do is the personal relationships. That's what sets us apart from other agencies who also offer financial assistance, because what we do here, mainly at Holy Apostles, is rental and utility assistance. But like I said, the personal element of this is really the heart of what we do and what sets us apart. Pre-COVID, we would make visits with those in need in person, often in their homes. Right now, of course, we're doing that over the phone, but still trying as best we can to maintain that personal connection. I hear more often than not from those we speak with that is what makes the difference. They often don't get a call back from these other agencies that they call. They leave a message and never hear again, or they can't reach a human being on the phone, but we call every single person back that we receive. And through that is really what makes the difference in our ministry, I think.
Wonderful. Yeah, practical charity that's founded on relationships. That's a very Christian idea. And like almost every Christian, especially every Catholic charity, it's an expression of our relationship in Christ that we extend to others. It's, we don't see the poor as just a problem to fix, but rather as Christ and how we can serve Christ and bring Christ to those that we meet.
Exactly.
So how does it work? If somebody, one of our neighbors in need, calls the parish and says, I'm behind on my monthly utilities, or I need some help with groceries, what happens then? They call the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and then you said that they get a call back. Walk us through the process.
Sure. So we do have a dedicated phone number and a phone line, and you can also call the parish office, of course. But we have an answering machine, and so they leave a message with their name, number, and briefly what they are seeking, and then we have a screener who calls, like I said, everyone back. And and then evaluates their case, and then typically passes it on to a team who does the actual visit.
Okay. And if, pre-COVID and hopefully before long with post-COVID, the actual visit, what would that look like?
So the team of Vincentians would reach out to that neighbor in need, and they would coordinate with them a time to literally visit, to go into their home. Typically it's in their home. And why we do that is, again, it's keeping that personal connection and making it so it's literally like a visit, like a friend visit. They're inviting you, they're inviting us into their home, and we can commune with them in that personal way. That's typically what happens.
Sure. Mother Teresa said that the greatest poverty in the West is loneliness. And I think when you're in physical or material poverty as well, you feel even more isolated. And so I'm sure just having those friendly faces who care is itself a great gift. We have obviously increasing house rates, house prices, rent is going up, food is getting more expensive. Are you seeing an uptick in phone calls for assistance?
Yes, and particularly during the last 18 months or so of COVID, especially because people have lost employment, either lost employment or had significant decreases in income, and then of course combined with the raising costs, absolutely. And I also have been finding, at least on many of the visits that I've done, people just want to talk. What you were mentioning about loneliness and the isolation, COVID has exacerbated that for everyone, but especially I think those in need. And so that's in addition to our financial assistance, which of course is important. We also, give a little bit of spiritual or emotional assistance. We sit with them through this time and walk with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I know every one of the conference meetings has prayer as its sort of foundation.
Yes.
So the conference members are able to give that spirit of Christ because they develop it in their own prayer lives. That's wonderful. Now, if somebody is requesting support, is there a criteria? Do they, how do you evaluate or discern what support is able to be offered?
Right. So very basically, there is no criteria. You don't need a certain level of income. You don't need to be a parishioner. It's anyone within our geographic region, along with other conferences. In the springs, we divide by zip code, and so if the caller falls within our zip code, then they're eligible for assistance. And then we do some additional evaluation, just very basic of their situation, but that in and of itself does not exclude them from receiving assistance.
Sure.
So.
There is, I know sometimes there are folks who are absolutely genuine, desperate need. Sometimes, as we've seen in charity work, there are folks who perhaps aren't so genuine in their need. How do you discern that? Because that's always, I think, something that frustrates people when they see somebody on the street corner and they think, well, they're capable of working, they just want to go buy drugs. How do you, there's an internal wrestling that people have, and I have sometimes. How do you address that?
That's a great question. And that is something that has come up a couple times in visits that I've done, and I know for other Vincentians too, we speak about this at our meetings. And what we keep in mind is we can't know for sure if someone is, how truthful someone is being. We rely heavily on the Holy Spirit to guide us, but we also use our powers of discernment. We ask a lot of questions on these visits, and I'll admit when I first started, some of the questions seemed invasive.
Sure.
But really, and we are upfront with our members. We are with our neighbors. We tell them we are going to ask questions to get to know you better, to evaluate your situation, and how we can best help. We we always feel it out if I sense that someone is uncomfortable, with a question. I say, you don't have to answer that. This is not an interrogation. But we ask very pointed questions to try to determine just that, the level of need. And at the end of the day, we believe that the funds that we have for our neighbors, we are the stewards of those funds. And so the money doesn't belong to us. The money belongs to those in need, and we are just facilitating the transfer. And so we do our due diligence to try to assess the situation, but unless there is something quite glaring, and honestly it is pretty obvious when someone is I don't know, pulling our leg or something, then we can rely on our powers of discernment and prayer. Like you said, Father, in our meetings, there is a lot of prayer, and also with the visits we pray. We often pray with the neighbor, and so we believe that really does guide our decisions.
Oh, excellent!
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, it's as we say, or as I said, we don't see the poor as a problem to solve, but people to love, and that's hard. As Mother Teresa also said, Christ will take on the distressing disguise of the poor. And sometimes it's not somebody who's chronically poor. It might just be somebody who's had a rough time at work, lost their job, maybe has disability that they can't help. They need help with extra expenses. So, and we so many people can quickly find themselves there.
Yes.
So it's a blessing to be able to help serve them and to serve them, sincerely, thoughtfully, but also personally. Well, the parish, through our regular offertory, we're able to sustain a good outreach fund, and I know we support the St. Vincent de Paul Society from the generosity of our parishioners, and I know some parishioners have also stepped forward in addition to that to offer help, resources, financial resources to the St. Vincent de Paul Society. How much do you all get paid?
None.
That's right.
We do not get paid.
No overhead.
No overhead. We are 100% volunteer run, and yes, thanks to the generosity of Holy Apostles, not only financially, but other resources. We don't have any overhead at all.
Yep. So if you're looking for a great place to get 100% of your outreach dollars to those who are in need, the St. Vincent de Paul Society is an excellent way to do that. But we don't just need financial support, we need bodies, we need hearts, we need hands. What are ways people can get involved aside from financially supporting the St. Vincent de Paul Society?
We are always welcoming new members. It's a network of friends is really what we like to consider ourselves as Vincentians. And I know time is perhaps, other than money, or maybe more than money, is one of the most precious resources we have. And we know that and respect that. And so the time commitment is reasonable, I believe. We have meetings once a month for about an hour, although during the summer it's a little bit different for summer hours, but that's typically our schedule. And the visits themselves are very flexible. We work around, especially when we're doing them over the phone, because you don't have to coordinate actually going to someone's house. We can do conference calls, or we have an office here at the parish with a phone where we make a lot of the phone calls, and that's really great. But we arrange those around the members' schedules, and so we've been able to do them on the weekends, in the weekday, in the evening, in the morning. Really, it's extremely flexible, so that's great. Just personally with a toddler at home, and I can work around his nap time or anytime really. So
nice. Yeah, if you're looking for a great way to get involved, to do some very hands-on, practical charity work, I can hardly think of a better way. I've attended a meeting, and it is run very succinctly. I love it. So yeah, she means what she says when it really is flexible with time, and it's very doable. So of course, there are a number of different ways to be involved. We have that whole slate of officers that I mentioned, who are more organizational. If you're not necessarily interested or don't feel that you're gifted in what it would take to be a part of the officer side of things, could somebody just show up to help make visits or do other tasks?
Yes, absolutely. We for a regular active member, really the only requirements are that you attend the meetings and you participate. So like I said, pretty low time commitment, and I suppose just some of we have members from all ages, all walks of life, all backgrounds. I would say really the only requirements would be an honest desire to connect with people, which again is the purpose of our visit, other than providing the financial assistance. You know, that honoring of their humanity is really the heart of why we do this. So just a desire for that element, and a sense of discernment, from what I was talking about before, about evaluating the situation. I think it's pretty instinctual. You know, you get to know through these conversations, you get to know our neighbors, and you get a feel for where they are, and a desire to share yourself, to pray with them, to be open about anything you might have going on. What's actually really incredible in a lot of the visits that either I do or hear about in our meetings, a neighbor will talk about a situation that they're in, and the Vincentian will have gone through something similar, or will have a family member who has gone through something similar and can relate directly to them. And even over the phone, you can't see the people, but you can hear in their voice how touched they are, that again, we're connecting with them on that level. And so that's incredible. And so just a willingness to be a part of that really is, I would say, all that's required.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, if you are interested, please reach out to our St. Vincent de Paul Society. You can find the phone number in the bulletin, I believe, and then on the website. And if you see Carmen or any of the other officers that I mentioned, I'm going to put them out there to feel free to answer. They'll help answer your questions. Well, I'm so grateful for the work that our St. Vincent de Paul Conference does, and I'm so proud of all of the members and everything that they've accomplished. In our meeting, we had a review of the numerous folks that they've been able to help, and it's impressive just to see how diligent and how loving this group of folks is. So if you'd like to be a part of it, please just reach out. We'd love to talk to you and love to have you. All right, well, this is the bulk of our fireside chat today. Thanks so much for joining us. God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.